There are levels.
I have levels too. Is my mic plugged in?
Yes, it is.
Plugged in.
Yep. Boop.
It is indeed.
Oh, goodness gracious.
All right. You ready to get into this video mode
Probably
now?
not. Probably not, but
it's all right.
I'm not going to get more ready.
I'll try to do more of the heavy lifting on this one, maybe.
Oh, who the heck knows?
Okay. My thoughts exactly. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 87 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I'm Brian Goulet.
I'm Drew Brown.
And we're here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we're going to be talking about how to position nibs and feeds inside your pens. We're going to be talking about springing a nib, and what the heck does that even mean? Can you fix it? I'm going to do a little deep dive on celluloids and resins and plastics. We're going to see how much I know what I'm talking about. Maybe not much.
Textiles.
Yeah, sure. We troubleshoot a LAMY pen with flow issues. We're going to be talking about fountain pen tattoos. Do we have any? I don't know. You'll have to wait and find out. And then we're going to demo the use of the Private Reserve Professional Hand Ink Remover. And we're going to update on our personal shenanigans. So that's what's happening today. And we'll start it out with feedback.
Last episode, we were requested to share some new word cloud
Yeah.
survey results. So I made a little survey that I shared with you all in the description of last week's video. It is now deactivated, so don't go try it. It's over. That ship has sailed.
Yep.
But I got some results. So if you wouldn't mind pulling up Slack, and we'll check those out. So the first thing I asked...
Where's it at? Oh, you selected it to me.
Yeah. The first thing I asked was, what are you doing while you're watching this pencast? So, yeah, there it is.
Right there.
So, working definitely seemed to be the big one. So get back to work, you slackers. My goodness. So that is definitely happening. You are also, many of you are eating, many of you are watching things, or knitting. Knitting is surprisingly big.
That's a big one.
We knew that our knitter friends were out there, but compared to a lot of the other things, the word knitting shows up pretty prominently. So I thought that was good.
I see some chores.
Yeah.
Nothing. I like that one.
Yeah, that's
drinking.
Solid.
That's a good one too.
Grading is there too. So we definitely have some teachers there.
Yeah.
Getting that. Designing shows up, not super prominently, but it's definitely there.
Writing, that's a prominent one.
For sure.
Journaling.
Absolutely. And breakfast. We seem to be a portion of a lot of folks' morning routine.
Breakfast and lunch. Lunch pops up on here too.
So if maybe the pencast makes people hungry, maybe it's those Swiss cake rolls.
We do talk about food a lot on here. We talk about coffee a lot. We talk about food.
Yep. So there you go. The next question I asked was, what other hobbies do you have in addition to fountain pens? So reading was by far number one.
Wow.
But of course, knitting happens to show up prominently also.
Games.
Drawing is there. A lot of hiking and photography as well. So that was cool to see. You got a little tiny woodworking down there, Brian.
Hey, I'm not the only one.
A little bit.
It's there.
Lego showed up. Books is also there. So reading books. And then I see dungeons. So there's probably a dragons somewhere.
There is a dragons right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
So we definitely have that happening. Tarot, bookbinding.
There's definitely some things I can tell, like words got split up. Like there's video and then there's games.
Yeah.
Like those are probably video games.
Especially if they're the same size, they got broken up. Yeah. So a lot of fun stuff. Crocheting is also there, not too far from knitting. So
Lego.
A lot of very tactile hobbies that people like to combine with the pencast.
Cycling, biking. Cool.
Very neat.
Okay.
And then the next one I asked what your favorite movie was. And
this is interesting.
So not super surprising. Lord of the Rings is big, heavy duty, prominent, but
I don't know if I would have picked that as number one. I guess it's just massively popular.
Who doesn't love Lord of the Rings? But what surprised me is you've got a ton of Star Wars movies and a bunch of Star Trek movies. The word star, which would cover all of that, is not as big as the words princess and bride.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
That's kind of on
Lord of the
par,
Rings, Princess Bride, and every other massive franchise.
Wow.
So we're talking it beats Star Wars. It beats
Harry Potter.
The word Avengers isn't even on here. So Princess Bride, you guys love yourself some Princess Bride.
Wow.
I mean, it's a great movie, but I mean, wow, like Lord of the Rings in the pantheon of movie popularity, I wouldn't have expected Princess Bride to be like knocking on the door of Lord of the Rings. That was.
I mean, it's at the top of my. It's definitely in my top 5, maybe my top 3.
I didn't see it until later in life, so I don't think I really connected with it. I like it, but I don't
think I saw it until Rachel and I were married. Like I saw it as an adult.
I like it, but I don't ever feel the need to rewatch it. Like it's an enjoyable romp, but I never find myself being drawn back to it.
It's better if you rewatch it. I'll say the first time is good, but it's one of those, it does get better the more you watch it.
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I thought that was fantastic.
What do you know?
And then I asked for a TV series, and that one definitely Star Trek wins.
Oh, yeah.
So Star Trek was beefier than any of the other movies, but you definitely see a Ted and a Lasso. You definitely see
Firefly.
Office is pretty prominent. You see Big in Theory there, so we can know what happens there because there's Bang right above it.
Basically all the nerd stuff.
Yeah. We see some Doctor Who. We see X-Files. Mandalorian is smaller than it should be. Come on, people. And then I see Shadows for What We Do in the Shadows. Someone put Pencast on there, which, I mean, come on now.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm sorry.
I see Succession, Futurama, Community.
Yeah. So a lot of good things there. And but yeah, Star Trek wins. Definitely sci-fi wins for sure, because we've got Star Trek, and Firefly. Firefly, for being one season, making it so prominently, like it's pretty much the same size as Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is very hot right now. Firefly is not relevant at all right now, but it's still as popular.
How old is Firefly? Like
more than
20 years old?
Yeah, probably 20 years old.
Nathan Fillion, avid fountain pen user.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
In case you didn't know that, in case you needed more of a reason to love Firefly. That's right.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I think he's a big fan of the LAMY 2000.
I think so.
Which is a shock, I know.
Yeah.
So few people like that pen.
And then one more? Next question, I asked what your favorite pen was.
Ooh.
So I went ahead and I tried to remove as many brand names as I could so we could get more into the actual model of the pen, because otherwise Pilot was like massive. And then so the word custom obviously is the champ here. So we're talking, this is covering the 912, the 823, the 74. So
745.
But probably behind that, I'm looking at the TWSBI Eco being number 2.
Goes up there. Safari's pretty big.
So here's another thing: the word custom covers half a dozen pens. Eco really only covers 1. So you got to give credit to the TWSBI Eco being as popular as it is and still being considered someone's favorite pen. Pretty impressive. So I thought that.
What is this? ES?
I don't know. I don't know why ES is there. I looked that up. I couldn't figure that out. I almost eliminated it, but too many things have the words ES in it.
What would be a separate word as ES?
I don't know. Safari is pretty big. You got Pro and Sport for Sailor and Kaweco. I was someone wrote anything, so it was probably anything plus a brand, perhaps. I don't know, but Vanishing Point, definitely TWSBI and Pilot are seeming to be the champs here.
Be up there, yeah. There's a bunch of LAMY themes woven throughout here too.
For certainly there.
Not a huge shocker.
Yep. So there we go. Yeah, that was a fun little exercise. So thank you all for participating in that. It was it was a couple fun surprises there.
Nice. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
My feedback, I got one from Just Us Space. To answer Rachel's question on why we watch this every week, because she's always
I will have to say
confused.
That this one had to be included because the amount of replies it had in the thread, like, oh my God, this is so true. Thank you for describing it this way. Like I had to put it in there because a lot of people thought that Justice really hit the nail on the head. So
cool. Okay.
Take it away.
All right. So Justice says, I'm an introvert, and while I have friends I love dearly, this feels like a friend interaction that I can control the timing on. I never have to feel guilty for not being in the mood to talk and enjoying a one-sided, me being a side with minimal input, conversation that I still feel included in. It's enrichment.
I completely agree. I do enjoy being social, but I don't like when it's forced upon me or when I don't have a choice in the matter.
Right.
Like I like to pick. And when I'm not, or when it catches me off guard, I'm just really thrown off.
That's why you can do videos, because it's like very one-sided.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. This is great. And honestly, pen shows are great too, because it's also pretty like one-sided. I don't need to introduce myself to anybody.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Very true.
Super. So a lot of people thought that Justice really, hit the bullseye on that one.
Yeah.
And I definitely, I can totally understand.
It is interesting because Rachel's an introvert, but she doesn't engage like that on any like regular content. But she does like video games, like Disney Dreamlight Valley and Animal Crossing and Zelda Breath of the Wild and all that. So she does like worlds and environments that she can navigate.
Varying levels of introversion. Like there are introverts that they do value social contact, but they're closer to the extrovert line, but definitely still an introvert. Rachel just might be very much over there, like she doesn't, enjoy it at all. I don't know.
Doesn't even want to be around other people virtually. Interesting. I'm more of an extrovert, so
I'm pretty close to the line, but being around people definitely does not fuel me in any way. It definitely is depleting.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like sad about it or like bothered by it. It just takes out of me, and I recharge by being alone in the darkness with the game controller in my hand.
There you go.
Like that's my jam.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Next one, we got CKC 315. The log burying story had me shaking, crying, laughing. Thank you. I haven't cried that hard in a long time.
Y'all saw me. I was more pink than my usual, situation. I could not breathe. Like, just picturing Brian in the dead of night.
Yep.
Like,
that happens.
Like, oh my God.
Yep.
Burying logs into the earth.
I have an update on my log grave that I'll save for you all later today.
You cracked a lot of people up with that one. Yeah. Like there were a lot of comments that echoed what CKC said.
I'll like hear ideas of things that people do, and I'll derive things from them and apply them to misappropriated areas and come up with something new.
A lot of people also ask, why didn't you just like chop them up and sell them for firewood?
Because they're pine, and pine does not make good firewood. Especially because around here it doesn't get that cold in the wintertime, and most of the time for firewood you want hardwood. You want oak and hickory and stuff like that. Nobody wants.
Doesn't pine pop a whole lot?
It's got a lot of resin in it, so you get a ton of creosote that builds up, and it burns really fast, so you have to constantly change it out, and it creates a lot of ash. It's just not a very efficient wood.
Well, there you go.
You don't get a lot of BTUs out of it, so pine is like a last resort wood that you would use. So it's just not a desirable wood to use for much of anything, which is why I'm burying them in a grave. Anyway, Born to Be Bun said, Brian, it was so cool to meet you and some of your team at EOS, the conference that I talked about. I did have one person that recognized me.
I did.
And this is her. Very cool. I'm also quite proud of myself that I refrained from following you all around asking nerdy pen questions for 2 days. Thank you. Trust me, it was a challenge. Glad you guys had a good time. To be fair, I would love to talk about pens. But, obviously, going to a conference like that, I'm thinking about all kinds of other things too. So appreciate the discretion. But, I always like to meet people in the wild as well. That's like the third time ever I've been recognized in like public. It very rarely happens, surprisingly, but except at a pen show. That's obviously different. And then last one, we have Steve Copeland, 9261. Thank you so much for this episode. Where else on YouTube can you find a conversation that ranks cheeses based on their throwability and strategies for taking trees that are above the ground and moving them to under the ground? And both topics handled with a completely appropriate level of seriousness. This is why I come back every week. Thank you. Well, Steve, I don't know what to tell you.
I know. I feel
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you liked it, but like you saying it back, it gives me, it's really putting the mirror up, and
it's like, is this what we've come to?
We did do that.
This is like when Rachel says she doesn't understand. I'm like, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, so can I.
The throwability of cheeses wasn't something I even knew was happening. I guess the log thing, you didn't know that was happening either. So
it just happened.
We surprise ourselves and each other as well.
For better, for worse.
Yep. Well, that's what we got for feedback this week. We got a couple new things. Let's talk about some new stuff.
Yeah.
All right. First thing I've got is a new Visconti. So this is not a new model. This is the Divina, but we have not had a lot of new Divinas recently. The most recent one I can think of is the Bordeaux one that we have, and that was a couple of years ago. So it's been a while since we had a new one. little bit of controversy here in the Goulet office as to how much everybody likes this one or not. I think whether you like it or not, you will feel something when you see this color.
Yeah.
So this is the Elegance.
It's definitely different than the Divinas they've had before.
Yeah, it's the Elegance Wave. So they made this one at a slightly lower price than they have the other one. I guess something about the technique they used or something. But it's still got like the silver inlays and all that. It's a faceted, tapering, twisting pen with inlays. Like the manufacturing requirements for a pen like this boggle my mind.
Yeah.
It's way more complicated than you would think to make a pen like this. So for that reason alone, I've always sort of been infatuated with the Divina. But it's a very comfortable pen. It's very well balanced, and it just looks really nice. So if you're into this color, check it out. You haven't really seen anything like it. It's this nice, like lighter teal kind of color, or turquoise. I don't know. Maybe this is more turquoise. Yeah.
Cobriatic.
I think I would call this one more turquoise, even though I called it teal. Whatever. But anyway, you can check that one out. And then we have a Diplomat Aero in a new color, a lacquered white.
Yes.
So this is no exposed metal. This is like a shiny, sort of like how, some of the studio, like the LAMY studios.
Yeah, it's like almost
more of a lacquer
with a hint of pearlescence to it.
Yeah, a little bit of shimmer. Yeah. A little bit of shimmer to the finish to it, So it's got a little different feel to it. We talk a lot. We are big fans of like the anodized aluminum.
Yeah.
So this is slightly different than that. Still same body, same material underneath, but it's got a like thicker lacquered coating.
Yeah, I feel like it's got more of a softness to it because of the lacquer. It doesn't feel quite as harsh as
not quite as cold
pens.
as like the bare metal would be. Yeah. But anyway, if you like white pens, this is a really like a nice pearly kind of white. Mm-hmm. It's a really nice looking color. Yeah.
We've also got some new ink, Brian.
Do we?
We have ink sets, kind of. So Robert Oster is not really coming out with a set, but they are coming out with a new collection, and it is a drinks collection. So at $18 each, they're not being sold as a set, but it is a collection comprised of whiskey and brandy, both of which are a lighter, very well shading set of browns. Mm-hmm. Green Lady, which is a shimmery green. Detox, Blue Martini, and Pink Squirrel. So all of these are drinks, and they are available now. So check those out. I got a chance to write with every one of them. They are fun to write with. I can't decide whether or not I like whiskey or brandy, though, so you will have to judge yourself by buying one more than the other so that we can get rid of the one you don't like. But they both shade really well, and it's I will say I like writing brandy more than I like
the letters. The letters involved.
Yeah.
Just call it Brandy Brown. That sounds
Brandy Brown.
I like the alliteration.
I'm sure there's somebody out there named Brandy Brown.
Whiskey Brown and Brandy Brown.
So yeah, Robert Oster, pretty cool.
Right.
And actual sets coming from Sailor, they're coming out with 2 dual shading sets of their most popular chroma shading, dual shading, multi-tonal inks. At $60 a pop, set 1 is going to include their most popular ink, Haha, as well as, these are all Manyo inks, by the way. Haha, Nekuyanagi, Sakura, and Nadeshiko. And set 2 is Ayame, Hinoki, Fuji, and Koke. So probably, kind of the more older inks, I think, in set 1, and some of the more recent inks in set 2. Because I know that most of the set 2s came out a little bit more recently.
Yeah, I think so.
Both sets are awesome. I think they're actually really well balanced, too, in terms of kind of the strength of the colors. Because Fuji and Koke, I think, are really, grand slams. And then Haha and Nekuyanagi are probably the anchors of the first set.
Yeah, they're most popular for sure.
Yeah, so solid sets and, great for gifts, too. So if you want to show somebody what crazy Manyo inks can do, they're available. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, you can check out all the new products, things that are arriving soon. We have that up on our website. You can check those out anytime. All right. Shall we do some Q&A, Drew?
Q&A, both of them.
Let's A those Qs.
All right. Okay. This is from Lukios. Question. When changing or replacing nibs, how do you know exactly where on the feed to place the nib? Also, do you find yourselves experimenting with the placement of the nib, such as further out, might make for a drier writing experience, for example, or something like that? Love the Pencast, guys. You make my week. Greetings from sunny Cyprus.
Cyprus. Wow. That's cool.
That's a ways away.
Definitely sunnier than it's been here recently.
Yeah, it's kind of dreary.
Rainsville, USA. So for most pens, there's pretty much an ideal placement to have when it comes to your nib and your feed. Sometimes there is a detachable housing like with especially Jowo or Bock nibs, pretty much there's like a plastic housing insert that screws into the pen, and those are made to have a very firmly fixed nib and feed. There might even be like cutouts for the nib and feed to only fit in one orientation. And pretty much other than not putting it in all the way, there's not really a lot of adjustment to do, so to speak. Pretty much the way that the relationship works between the nib and the feed basically is just making ink available to the nib. The nib is really what is kind of influencing, what happens on the page a little bit more. So yes, you can widen, if you're like actually altering the feed, you can widen the ink channel, you can do some stuff like that slightly, but all that really does is make, slightly more ink available. It's not necessarily like pushing it out because it's all working on capillary action. There's very minimal like modification you can do to that to make a regular nib do more, so if you have a nib like a flex nib, it might demand more ink. So there might be like some relationship there that it has with the feed, but it's not like if you push the nib out more and the feed's set in more, it's going to write dry or anything like that. It's pretty much like if it's making contact and the capillary reaction's working, the ink is going to flow. So you can do some like very minor kind of adjustment, like you're talking about here at the end, like make it write drier. But I've found pretty much like there's an optimal way to put the nib and feed in, and any other orientation or any other like in or out or thing you try to do is pretty much just making it not optimal.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
that's been my experience.
It might write drier in terms of like it'll dry out and then stop writing.
Yeah.
Not really like, it'll be like 70% is wet if you don't put the nib in all the way. Not really. It's just if the nib isn't making consistent contact with the ink channel on that feed, then it's just going to starve of ink and then not really write well. Or it might write okay at the beginning when you first ink it up because the whole feed is totally saturated with ink. But if it's not making like full and proper contact, then it's going to dry up and it's not going to write great. Yeah. So really that orientation of the nib and the feed, that's not the way to make an adjustment in terms of ink flow. So pretty much you want to get it set in there optimally, and then any adjustment you would want to do beyond that, you need to get into some nib alteration type things, either widening the tines, you can do things with the grind of the tip and stuff like that, that gets a little bit beyond just like hobbyist type stuff maybe. I will say some housings and grips have cutouts, so you have to put the nib and feed in a certain way. Think like LAMY is super specific about how the feed has to fit in there. And the nib, it's attached to the feed, so like I can't really adjust that much at all. And then same thing with like Jowo and Bock, anything that comes with like a removable housing, it's kind of the same way. They pretty much fit in there. TWSBI, I guess, some pen, like the 580 and anything with a replaceable nib unit on a TWSBI is going to have a screw-in housing that has to fit in a pretty particular orientation. There's other pens that you can put the nib unit in any orientation, like rotation wise. Thinking like a TWSBI Eco, like it doesn't have to go in a particular place, but it needs to go in pretty much like all the way. You got to be able to shove the thing all the way down there. And then when you mate the nib up, the nib is made to kind of rest on top of the feed. You put those two together, and if you put them all the way in, they're going to be the right depth because they stop when they get to the back of the grip. So pens like that, yeah, you can change, if it matters to you, like where the grip, like where you grip it or whatever, like you can adjust the nib and feed in there. And a lot of pilot nibs are that way too. It's just like a round circle. I think that
the steel ones, kind of lower and can spin around freely.
Yeah.
But those nibs are keyed to the feeds for sure.
Right, exactly. So you get those that it's like, well, the orientation in terms of like rotationally, it doesn't matter where you
can spin the nib and the feed as one unit, but the nib itself ain't moving.
It's pretty much locked in to wherever it is on the feed. And then there's other ones where it doesn't matter, it's just kind of free floating in there. I know these days the Noodler's pens are a little more locked in.
Yeah.
The original ones were pretty loosey-goosey in there, and you could shove them way down or have up, and there was some,
but like you said, like
adjustability.
I found that doing that just made them not work at all. Every one of them was different. It's like, all right, this one likes to be a little bit more out, this one likes to be a little bit more in, and then anything else would just make them not work at all.
Yeah. And with the Noodler's pens, the original, I'm talking, we're going back probably 5 years now since I think they made those changes. But those have ebonite feeds as well, which is kind of a whole other thing on a really widening channel, flexible nibs. So there's a lot more variables going on with those. Nathan originally designed those to be very tinkerable and stuff like that. But I think ultimately he settled on more people want something that just kind of works more straight out of the box than that tinkerability. So he kind of rolled that back a little bit. So pretty much when it comes to nib and feed setting inside the pen, there's pretty much an optimal way to do it on every pen. It may vary slightly depending on like how keyed in either the nib is to the feed or the nib and feed together is into the housing. That varies a little bit depending on brand and model, but basically you put it all the way in and it kind of locks it in, and that's what you want.
Yep.
And then any adjustments you need further may come down to like nib tying adjustment and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I got on that one.
I agree. I totally agree.
All right. Drew, I got a question for you from Fossil Imprint 2954.
Okay.
I keep hearing about if you use too much pressure with a fountain pen, you may spring the nib. What does this mean, and why can't you just push the nib back in place?
You can push the nib back into place. That is absolutely a thing you can do. It's very simple in its concept because it's a piece of metal that bent one way, you bend it back the other way. Mm-hmm. In execution, doing that can be very, very difficult. Now, if you are writing with the pen for years, let's say you've had, an E95S or something for, 8 years, and over time you've bounced it around so much that it just is spread a little bit more than it used to. Mm-hmm. That is probably easily fixable. You can probably just bend that back into place without a whole lot of effort. But if you are someone who buys a Pilot Falcon because you saw a video of somebody doing some crazy Spencerian calligraphy and you get it and you're like, yeah,
squish,
and your stuff looks like that, that is a problem that you can't just quickly bend into place. If you have a severe bend, that is very, very different because I liked this question a lot because it made me think of a really good analogy in terms of rebending something. If anybody, and I think everybody had tried to straighten a paper clip, you know that where it's bent and where you straighten it, there's still a little bit of a bend there after you straighten it. Because when you straighten a paper clip, you don't bend it exactly where it was originally bent. You never do. It's so hard. You think you're straightening it, but there's still that little bump. And to get that bump out, you have to bend and rebend, and you have to get it so perfectly. And it's so difficult. That's why nib professionals and specialists get, attention and business, because they can do that. It's very difficult. I mean, they can do other things too, but if you do need a repair from a severely bent nib, if your nib looks like this and you try to rebend it, you could end up rebending it like that.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of flat, but you'd have this like hump in the middle, or it might just be, and you might not notice it. It might write just fine, but you're not going to easily, at least at first, be able to bend it back right where it needs to be bent in order for it to return to its original shape. That's very difficult. I've tried it many times. Tricky. Sometimes I'm able to do it. Most of the time I'm not.
Sometimes the pros aren't able to get it.
Yeah.
It'll write perfectly, but you're going to see that little bit of a defect.
So that's a severe bend. If it's not a severe bend, if it's just kind of happened over the years, yes, you can bend it back with minimal effort. But regardless if it's a severe bend or just an overtime widening of the tines, you are still going to have to align it after that. Once those tines move apart and are forced to return to their position, 99% of the time, the tipping material on the left and right tines is not going to be exactly perfect. So you're also going to need to make sure those are aligned well also. And depending on the severity of the bend, you might also need to worry about angle of the tipping material, not just whether or not they're spaced, because if you bring them back together perfectly, yeah, sure, that's great. But you might, have bent them and then return them to position, but now they look like that, or worse, like that. So you're dealing with a host of other issues. So yes, you can bend them right back together, but it's easier said than done for sure. So
it gets complicated. There's a surprisingly very little amount of tolerance involved when setting a nib and getting the tipping to be aligned just so. That's why nib professionals are a thing.
Right.
And I will say too, part of what complicates it too, especially with an extreme bend, is because when you're bending a nib, the nib right is on top of the feed. And when you're writing with a lot of pressure, the nib is bending up and there's nothing on top of it to hold it. Mm-hmm. But when you bend it back, you got the feed underneath.
Yeah.
So if you're just gonna bend it down, you may actually hit the feed and then over bend it and like condor, like beak that nib a little bit, because the feed, it's hard to over bend it because the feed's in the way. So sometimes you may actually need to take the nib out of the pen completely. If you're comfortable doing that, bend it, adjust it, and then put it back in the pen and then fiddle with it some more. It's
even then, if you try to return a bent nib to its original position, you might overdo it a little bit and end up cutting off flow from the feed. It could now then seat too tightly against the feed, and then you're stifling your flow. So it can get complicated. It is it's just metal that's bent one way, and you can bend it another way. But the fact that these things are controlled leaks make them very prone to, I guess they're just very sensitive to anything less than perfection, really.
Yeah.
But certainly give it a shot, but give it a shot with a, more or less expendable pen or nib. And if you don't have one of those at your disposal, send it to a nib professional.
Steel nibs are easier to mess with than gold nibs because gold is a little more malleable.
That's an opinion. Like,
you think so? Really?
Our friend CY DM'd me after that. He's like, "Wait, you think steel's easier? Gold's way easier." I was like, "What? No."
I don't know.
So I think steel is easier.
For a newbie, I think. Well, it's obviously easier to bend a gold nib.
Yeah,
but I think
gold nibs are more bouncy. They do return to their position quicker.
Yeah, but you have to overbend them more.
Yes.
Like I think it's.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
We feel like steel is definitely easier.
I'm sure it's very subjective, right? But the other thing I will say too is like if you're going to mess with your pens, obviously use your own discretion. If you've already bent your nib and whatever, it's probably out of warranty or whatever. So use your own judgment. If you have a Namiki Emperor or something, you might want to have it done by a professional, right? But if it's a pen that you feel comfortable messing with, as long as you're not like over bending it and doing something so bad you like snap the tines off or do something crazy. If you screw it up, chances are a nib professional is going to be able to fix your screw up, just like they would be able to fix a spring, nib anyway. So me personally, I'm like, try to educate yourself, mess around with it a little bit. Don't do anything crazy, but it doesn't hurt to try and learn.
No, I will say, just thinking of the nib specialists out there, they would probably prefer you go to them first.
Probably.
Rather than giving them one that you tried to screw around with.
I think about like an auto mechanic that I used to know had a sign in his garage bay that had, one like hourly rate, whatever. It was like a made up sign. It was meant to be a comical sign, but it was like hourly rate if you've tried to fix it, which was higher.
Yes.
And then an hourly rate if you try to help was even higher. So it's, kind of a funny thing. It's like, let the pros do what they do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you just spring your tines a little bit, you can usually salvage it. But
yep.
Anyway, cool.
There you go. All right. Stephanie Lane 5072
deep dive time
says, Brian and Drew, of course, I absolutely love your show.
Of course.
Please explain the difference between celluloid and resin. Why is celluloid no longer being made? And why is it so expensive? If it's so cherished, why would they stop making it?
These are all good questions. I went on a deep dive.
I see that. How long?
Dove deeply.
All right. You've got some links in here. You've got some Britannica.com links in here,
I just wanted
Brian.
to be able to easily reference my own links. That's all.
No one's asking for your sources.
I'm not going to say the links, but
Hold on.
Yeah. Sorry. Can't hyperlink it in real life. And it's funny because, like, honestly, it was just kind of like the first part of the question I did. I didn't even really make notes on the rest of it, but I'll cover it. Okay, so deep dive time. You ready? Hang on tight. Grab your coffee. Grab your drink. You're drinking. If we go by the word cloud, then apparently everybody's knitting and drinking while at work.
Yeah, get my fiddle coin out.
All right. So there's two things to keep in mind with this. One is that there's, a scientific language explanation on this, which I'll definitely cover more of. And then there's a more natural language, common language, or like a marketing language that is a little bit different too. So anyway, with that in mind, I'm not a scientist, but I can play one on YouTube. So let's do that. I'm going to try and explain some of the sciencey things as I understand it, though much like a chatbot, I'm a very trustable source because I'm just pulling information from other places.
But you can't say he's not honest.
I am trying. But I do have some perspective to bring, so I'm trying to filter through what I know. Anyway, long story short, celluloid is a type of resin, but not all resins are celluloid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a dog is an animal, but not all animals are dogs. So you can call a dog or an animal. So if you have a celluloid pen, you can say that is celluloid and that is resin. You can also say that is plastic because plastic is in a different type of category. We're going to get into all that. But anyway, so basically celluloid and resin can mean the same thing, but resin is just kind of a bigger category. Okay. So let me start first by explaining what are celluloids. So celluloids are a class of materials produced by mixing nitrocellulose and camphor, often with added dyes and other agents. And I actually have the typical formulation of celluloid if you really want me to break it down.
I absolutely do.
Okay.
I'm sure that's why we're all here.
A typical formulation of celluloid might contain 70 to 80 parts nitrocellulose, nitrated to 11% nitrogen.
11%?
11%.
Oh, dang.
Nothing more, nothing less. 30 parts camphor, 0 to 14 parts dye, depending on what you have in there, and 1 to 5 parts ethyl alcohol, plus stabilizers and other agents to increase stability and reduce flammability. Okay, so I did look at Britannica because they had pretty decent definition of both resins and plastics because I expanded the scope of this just a little bit because often the term resin and plastic get used interchangeably, and I thought that would be a helpful thing to use in this instance too. That is very true. Okay, so Britannica says resin, any natural or synthetic organic compound consisting of a non-crystalline or viscous liquid substance. So natural resins are typically fusible and flammable organic substances that are transparent or translucent and are yellowish to brown in color. They are formed in plant secretions and are soluble in various organic liquids, but not in water. Synthetic resins comprise a large class of synthetic products that have some of the physical properties of natural resins, but are different chemically. Examples of natural resins are things like shellac, amber, balsam, and pine rosin. Examples of synthetic resins are things like urethane, polyurethane, epoxy, stuff like that. They're not, the synthetic ones are not clearly differentiated from plastics. Okay, so in researching both resins and plastics, there are some materials that clearly fall under just one or the other, but there are a lot that overlap. Okay, so plastic is a polymeric material that has a capability of being molded or shaped, usually by the application of heat and pressure. Plastics can be derived from natural resins like nitrocellulose, synthetic resins like acrylic or epoxy, or non-resin plastics like PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate. Most cheaper disposable pens are made of polystyrene or PPC, which is polypropylene copolymer. Okay, so plastics are basically a even bigger category that can include things that are not resin, but also can include a lot of resins.
So any fountain pen company that says, no, our pens aren't plastic, they're resin, is kind of not right.
It's technically, scientifically
plastic.
If it's hard,
if it's a resin, it's plastic.
Moldable, formable, it's plastic.
So if it's a resin, it is plastic.
My understanding is that, yes, that is the case.
Right.
It is both. It's a resin-derived plastic.
Even if it's precious.
As precious as it may be. Yes. Yes. So yeah, and this is where it does get a little bit confusing, and this is where you get into some of the natural language, common language, as opposed to the
marketing language,
the marketing stuff. Because honestly, it gets so granular, and it's with ways that you can't even see or tell the difference. Mm-hmm. Like most people can tell drastically different types of plastic, but there's a lot of types of plastic out there. Most of the time, it comes down to certain properties they have that aren't visible, like their water resistance or flammability or moldability and all these other different, like whether it, you know, a good example. I have a good recent life example. So my daughter is into painting her nails sometimes. Often at midnight. She's a night owl like me. So she will just go and paint her nails and stuff like that. Well, she had some nail polish remover, which is acetone, basically, which nail polish is basically acrylic acetate, which is the same resins used in a lot of fountain pens, believe it or not. It's basically acrylic acetate that's dissolved in acetone because that's the solvent for it. So she took one of the like plastic little, drinking cups that Rachel had, like you have little 2-ounce cups, next to your sink in the bathroom that you might drink water out of.
Oh yeah, like that they have in like the bathroom section of department stores.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're paper. You can get some plastic ones. That is a different type of plastic than what is used for the bottle that the nail polish remover comes in.
Oh yes.
The nail polish remover stuff, I want to say it's the same stuff that like milk jugs are made out of. I think that's PET if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds about right.
But
it's also a brand of milk.
The little plastic cups. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
No, I think you're right
is
on both. Yeah.
Maybe that's where they came up with the name for that. Anyway.
Nah, probably not.
But anyway, these little plastic cups, they were a different type of plastic.
Oh yeah.
That is dissolvable by acetone.
Oh man.
So she went to pour some acetone into one of those little cups, and after 10 seconds or so, basically the bottom of the cup melted and the acetone went all over the counter and got all over all kinds of things. So
yep.
She was very surprised by that, and I was like, well, this is a good little life lesson.
Yeah,
here,
it could have been
Ellie.
worse.
Yeah, this is a different type of plastic.
That could have happened over top of Joseph's Legos.
Oh my gosh. Acetone is strong stuff. That's why nail polish smells so much.
Like for all the Legos in the house, it's kind of a miracle that didn't go
acetone
south.
Will melt some Lego.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it will.
So she got lucky, or Joseph got lucky. I don't know. Somebody got lucky.
Yeah. Our bathroom counter was not lucky, but thankfully our bathroom counter is not damaged by acetone. Anyway, so plastics. Yeah, technically, I think resins are, they can be derived and made into a plastic, which nitrocelluloid or cellulose nitrate, cellulose nitrate. Yeah, that's the like celluloid stuff that you talk about with like pens. That was essentially a very early version of plastic before there were like fully synthetic plastics that were created. So you go back to like the mid 1800s and you have essentially they were trying to replace ivory because they had things like billiard balls and brooches and hairpins and things like that were very expensive to be made of ivory.
And those cool green transparent hats that all the poker dealers wore.
Exactly. That was nitrocellulose stuff. Very flammable though. Yeah. Same thing with like early film. Mm-hmm. Like if you've seen the movie Inglourious Bastards.
Yep.
They like light the movie on fire. Sorry to spoil it for you, but that's because all that film was very flammable partly because of the camphor. But anyway, so plastics can be derived, from natural or synthetic stuff, like I just mentioned. So I think what we usually see is fountain pens that are referred to as resins. Technically, they're all plastics because of the form that they're in. But I think they often get marketed as resin, especially if you're calling something resin and it is derived from a natural or a synthetic resin, but it's in a plastic form, I think that's fine because you're essentially stating that is a different type of plastic than your fully synthetic, more mass-produced pen like the polystyrene. Right? Yeah. So I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's probably why that's happened that way. So I mean, you have even like PMMA is a little more premium kind of version of plastic, but acrylic acetate, these nitrocelluloid, these are all more expensive, more difficult to produce versions of plastics. Celluloid itself is a very specific resin that can be made into a plastic in pen form that's derived from this nitrocellulose material. So that is the very technical kind of deep dive scientific answer to that. So the deeper question you asked here is, why is celluloid derived from this cellulose nitrate? Why is that no longer being made and so expensive? It's a couple of different reasons. For one, it is just an expensive process to manufacture because it is derived from natural materials. So you can't just synthesize it in a lab. You have to go through a process of treating it to make it into a usable plastic.
Plant-based?
It's plant-based, yeah. So you have to actually go and harvest the cellulose from these plants. And in doing so, it uses a lot of acids. It uses some pretty nasty chemicals and stuff like that. It's also a highly flammable process. So not only flammable in the process of actually making the stuff, but then as it's curing and even in its final form, just the rods of the stuff can be very flammable because it's got that camphor that's off-gassing. You got essentially a plant-based material that stays more or less flammable over a long period of time. It's just more hazardous to manufacture and store and manufacture, to like the process of actually drilling it out and stuff like that. The heat and the friction from the tools can actually create fires, and not just, maybe not on the solid block of the pen itself, but essentially it's sort of like if you have a block of wood or a piece of furniture, or you throw a log into a fire. It takes a little while for it to actually get burning. Then when it does, it burns a lot. But if you take like the sawdust or some like kindling or like the bark or like small shavings,
it goes right up.
That stuff lights up really easily.
Yeah.
So in the manufacturing process, when you're dealing with the celluloid,
the
shavings and the dust and the things like that come from the manufacturing process, that stuff is very flammable. So everything you have to do when manufacturing it, you have to take all these extra considerations for safety reasons. So, essentially you had this as an early derivative as they were coming into modern plastics.
Yeah.
So it's a very kind of a throwback way to manufacture that has essentially been replaced by more synthetic versions of plastic because
safer, more economical,
safer, cheaper, more reliable. They have other things like celluloid pens. They continue to off-gas. They degrade with UV worse than regular resin does. So if you leave pens out in the sunlight over time, it'll break down, it'll yellow, they can warp. It was an early version of plastic basically. And it's very nostalgic.
Yeah.
And it's probably worth more because there are, materials that were made that are kind of iconic to vintage pens that are romantic, that were uniquely produced in this kind of celluloid fashion. Not that they can't be at least closely replicated with modern plastics. But a lot of these things, you just don't see them anymore. So they're more special, supply and demand, right? But it's not that they are necessarily a superior material. But there are some compromises like Noodler's pens, actually. They are a cellulose butyrate. So it's a different type, CAB, I think is what it's called. That's the same thing made out of like old like screwdriver handles and stuff like that have that lovely familiar Noodler smell. Those are better for things like impact resistance, and those do still yellow over time and stuff like that. So it's like there's very specific instances that you get into with all these different types of plastic. There's pros, cons, used for all different types of things. That's why there's so many plastics. But specific to pens, I think the modern things like PMMA and acrylic acetate, essentially just longer term, are a superior overall form of plastic than these nitrocelluloids.
I wonder if someone could make small batch celluloid.
So I don't know, because I don't know the specific details of how it's made, because it's sort of trade secret a little bit. But my guess is, I know in Europe, in certain places like Italy and Germany, where some of the celluloid was coming from, there were environmental regulations that made it essentially cost prohibitive to continue manufacturing. It's not that they couldn't be made, but the demand for that specific material and how they were being used, because essentially they were being used for very specific things, like ping pong balls was actually, I think maybe ping pong balls coming out of China, you might still be able to get at that cellulose nitrate material.
Wow.
Most of them have been replaced though too. But if you, because there's so many like acids and things like that are involved in manufacturing that, and the risk of fire and all these types of things, it's cost prohibitive to manufacture it. So
and then
in a small batch, I would think it would be even less. It would be even less practical to produce.
And just storing it as well. Like we visited Montegrappa's facility, and they have to have an outbuilding, not connected to their.
They have like a cement block building,
right, surrounded by gravel, so that any sort of combustion event won't travel. Everything is temperature controlled, humidity controlled, and that's just for what they have left over. That's not even new stuff.
They had a fire years ago. Their celluloid, for whatever reason, caught. I don't know if it started with the celluloid or if it's just lit up in a regular fire that happened. I don't know the details of it, but I know they had a big fire that
Yeah,
burn
it just
part of
seems
their
like it's
warehouse
just
down.
overall just not worth it. Like the risk does not.
That's
the
why,
risk far
that's why
outweighs
it's so
the
expensive.
reward.
That's why it's so expensive. It's not necessarily that it's like that much more of a benefit. It's
just a pain in the butt.
So much of a hassle to
Yeah.
make it. So it's like it's the kind of thing like if you find it, if it's around, it seems that much more special. But to you as the end user, is it that much more special? Probably not for most people, unless you particularly appreciate these like finer things about.
Or appreciate the danger that it took to manufacture it.
Yeah. Now, say if you have like a celluloid pen here and there, you don't have to worry about it like bursting into flames, you know, in your house or your office or anything. There's just a couple special considerations you have to make. It's more like if you're storing a lot of the stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
if your pen case lights on fire, that pen will definitely blaze.
That pen won't help. Put it that way. It won't put it out. Won't put it out.
But no, it's not going to spontaneously combust either.
It's kind of like me when I bought the RC car, you know, a couple of weeks ago. When I bought that, the battery that it uses is a lithium polymer battery. So it's beyond lithium ion. It's like a more densely, you know, packed version of it. And like when I bought it, the guy was like very adamantly driving home the point to me that like these batteries are no joke. Like if they start to swell or they look bad, like store these things in a very safe place. If they get too hot, like not only, I don't know if you know this about like electric cars, like the batteries used in electric cars. I think they like if they had like a Tesla, for example, not just pick on them, it could be any electric car, but the batteries used in those are so much harder to put out because they basically, you can put them out and they can reignite because of the chemicals and stuff that are used in there. Like so much energy stored in them. I think I heard somewhere it takes like 25,000 gallons of water to put out a car fire that is like an electric car. It's kind of a problem that hasn't really been solved. So anyway, just to drop that in there as a fun little fact.
Oh, man.
Batteries is our whole other thing, but
you just got to launch that thing into space.
Yep. Send it to Mars.
Oof.
There you go. Anyway,
right.
So I don't know if that, hopefully that helps some, but basically celluloid should be a specific term of that nitrocelluloid based, you know, thing. I keep saying nitrocellulose. That's not technically a word. Cellulose nitrate, you know, but otherwise resin and or plastic is the appropriate term.
How about that? I learned something.
There's your deep dive.
Thanks, Brian.
You stayed mildly engaged.
Yeah,
mildly awake.
No, I was legit interested in that.
Good. I'm glad to hear
I only
that.
fought off one yawn. And
Good.
I think that happened just...
It would have happened anyway. Yeah. Fair enough.
I did a closed mouth yawn, so it was just like... So if anybody wants to rewind it...
You always kind of wonder, like, did I get away with that?
I don't think I did. Somebody noticed. Anyway.
All right. I got the next one here,
All
too.
right.
All right. This is from Ninenats. Not sure if I pronounced that right. My LAMY AL, I'm guessing All-Star, is drying out. Cleaned it. Changed nib from F to B. Start strong, but no luck. Follow up. Got a second little comment here. Might something be wrong with the feed? Using a converter and have switched inks. So Drew, sounds like you need to troubleshoot this thing.
Well, there are some things that I would like to ask, but I can't. So I would like to ask, which inks are you using? But it still is a good thing you switched inks. That's definitely smart. I would like to know how long before it dries out, because if you're talking weeks, then yeah,
that could be normal.
The LAMY snap caps aren't the best in terms of long-term storage. So if it's like, if you're talking weeks, then yeah. But if you're talking about, it's totally dry after one weekend, that shouldn't happen. So I would definitely have some questions if we were talking, but I'm just going to pretend that you're talking about it drying out like way faster than it should, like a matter of a couple days. So no matter what, if this was happening with a LAMY or a Sailor or a Pilot, anything, you need to give this thing a deep clean. That is like restarting your device. It helps with a lot of different problems. So when I mean a deep clean, I mean that feed needs to come out. And we've talked about this on the Pencast before. The LAMY feed is a little tricky because once it comes out and gets scrubbed, it needs to go back in. And it doesn't go back in just any old way. Like Brian was talking earlier about, resituating feeds. The LAMY feed...
We got a video on that.
...is very specific. Yeah, I'll go ahead and link the video.
I will say it definitely helps to take the feed out. You don't have to, but it's a lot faster to deep clean if you can get the feed out of your pen.
Yeah, if you have ink that is really settled into the feed, and if you're talking pigment or shimmer, something that's really blocking it up, pulling that feed out and getting a toothbrush to it can really help. And if you're having clog problems that aren't being solved by, repeated traditional cleaning or swapping of nibs or swapping of inks, then yeah, you need to pull that feed. Yeah. So get that feed out. You can use a grip of some kind. I'll go ahead and take the nib off first, grab the feed and pull that out, give it a good cleaning. You can
feed is usually tough to get out the first time, though.
It is.
There's not a lot to grab onto.
Yeah,
there.
You really do need something to assist you with. There's a little piece, a little plate, a strip of plastic on top of the feed. You can pull that out and scrub in there too and set it back in.
Yeah, that's helpful.
But putting the reinstallation of the feed is the tricky part. It has a channel that it needs to go into. So I always like to place it gently into the opening of the grip section and then just kind of rotate it until it kind of just falls into it, and then you can push it the rest of the way.
You should never have to force that feed in. If you force it, it gets stuck.
Yeah, just put it in there a little bit, rotate it, and you'll feel it when it gets into that channel, and then you can push it the rest of the way until it clicks right there at the end. And then you can also look at the inside of the grip section. You can see the channel, and then on the underside of the nib, you can see a strip of plastic that extends a little bit past. That's the meetup point.
Yeah, LAMY's the only brand I know that has like a 2-part feed.
Yeah,
that is. If you're a tinkerer, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
If you've never taken a LAMY feed out, I mean, obviously do all the stuff that Drew just talked about and be conscious and all that, but it is pretty fun to play with one of those things.
And it got me thinking about every feed is different, and every feed, you need to have different considerations when pulling it out. And we've never done a video on that about pulling different feeds. It's pretty specific, but I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be promoted very heavily.
No,
by YouTube.
It would not. It would not do well on YouTube at all. But it would be one of those. It would be
when's that ever stopped us?
Yeah, right.
Is that something y'all be interested in? I don't know, because there are a few pens that use like a more generic, like a Yovo or a Bach or something where it's like fairly similar. But there's some that are just very different, kind of weird.
Yeah. Like Twisby takes special consideration. I think Platinum takes a special consideration too, because the post on that thing is like that long. And if it comes out at an angle, that thing will snap right off.
I've snapped off a post or two in my day.
Me too. Yeah. Don't feel great about that.
It happens. The pen still works though if you snap that post off, I find. Though maybe it works slightly less better in certain circumstances.
The one I snapped off, I just put back in your collection, and I don't think you've noticed yet.
That's cool.
So
I'll just think that I broke it probably. So you got away with that crime.
No, I don't remember when that happened, but
I know I've done that with like a monograppa pen here and there, which I think just uses a standard Yovo feed, but I snapped the post off of that a time or two as well.
Yeah, as long as the converter cartridge has something to grab onto, it should be fine.
This is why when you pull a nib and feed, you want to like grab the thing with your hands and then like just push your fingers apart. You don't ever want to like grab it and then like use your arms.
Yeah, you can use your fingers to kind of like pinch it away.
Yeah, if you use your whole arms, you're much more likely to do this.
Yes,
and like snap,
and that's how I broke the Platinum.
That's 100%.
Yep.
I've done that several times.
Definitely.
Even knowing this, I've still done that.
Yeah. So overall, if the nib isn't your problem, if the inks aren't your problem, cleaning that feed is probably what you're going to want to do.
Yeah.
So get that thing out, get a toothbrush to it, and put it in the right way, or else if you put it in the wrong way, it'll stay in there forever.
I'll add in here too, if you are just not the tinkering type, you have no interest in disassembling your pen, not all is lost. Pen flush is helpful in this type of situation. You can just use water and dish soap and then just let the thing soak overnight or maybe for a couple of days. That eventually will work loose any dried up ink or anything that's up in there. It takes a lot longer to do that. You may have to do a couple treatments of that, but that is also another route to go if you're not super into the full disassembly thing. So.
Yep. There you go.
There you go.
All right. We're going to finish it off with our friend Eva Buck X.
Okay. This is not a deep dive.
What do you think about fountain pens in tattoos? And would you ever consider one? Do you think it's time for us to show everybody our matching tattoos, Brian?
Oh, I don't know. Should we?
Pen 1 and pen 2? No.
I do like that idea.
No.
It's so fitting. There's so many puns you could do because you're literally talking about tattoo ink.
There are a lot of inappropriate ones too.
What
do you think about
I don't have a tattoo.
Fountain pens and tattoos?
Alert. I think it would be cool. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of a fountain pen incorporated into a tattoo.
Yeah, I don't think.
Not that I'm like browsing tattoos all the time.
But I think that for all the fountain pen people we know, I feel like I would have.
There's a lot of fountain people with tattoos.
Right, but
I don't know if I've seen
tattoos.
I don't know if I've seen in real life or a picture of a fountain pen incorporated into a tattoo. Sounds like we should be trendsetters here.
All right. Would you ever consider one?
I'm considering it right now. Very shallowly, you know.
Have you ever wanted to get a tattoo of any kind?
Sure. I'm not like opposed to a tattoo. I think they can be kind of cool. I think you can regret them.
Yeah.
I haven't ever felt strongly enough about something or somewhere to get a tattoo to like seriously consider. I've never like gone to a tattoo shop and been like, I am intending to look at tattoos to put on my body. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I got a tattoo. Just like, oh, I wonder if I ran a marathon. Right. Like that ain't happening anytime soon. So I've never seriously considered.
If you got one, would you consider a fountain pen one?
Sure. I feel like of the things that have been like important and impactful in my life, a fountain pen would be largely appropriate for me to consider.
Right.
You know, if not like the Goulet splatter or something like that. You know, it's like. Of course, those are the ideas that come to mind.
You get a splatter on your face like Mike Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
Just like right there.
A big Goulet blue splatter. Sounds like we need to get Mid-Journey to like AI derive that image for us.
You look so hip.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I think fountain pens I think tattoos are awesome. I've thought a lot about what I would get, but I don't want anything less than a full sleeve. And I know that you have to start somewhere, but I don't want to. I don't want to just have one tattoo. And it would cost like thousands of dollars to get a full color, full sleeve. And I'm like, if someone gave me like a tattoo gift card for like $5,000, I'd be like, heck yeah, all right, load me up. Here's my ideas. But like for me, if you just give me $5,000 cash, I'm like, I'm not buying a tattoo with this.
Right,
like,
right.
I've never been in a situation
it's not like the number one thing on your bucket list.
Right. If I have money, I'm like, I'm not thinking tattoo. I'm thinking PlayStation 5, you know, there are so many other things that I would rather spend my money on, but
that's fair.
I guess I just need a tattoo gift card is what I need.
Is that a thing?
No, probably not. I'm sure you can get gift cards for specific tattoo places. I follow several tattoo artists on Instagram, and I love their work. Like, oh man,
I've seen a lot of like script, like handwriting, you know, like cursive script stuff in tattoos. Some of those are really cool. Yeah. I
would want like one full arm of like Disney characters and then one full arm of video game guys.
I was gonna say you would have to incorporate some like 1984 stuff.
Maybe, yeah. I was just thinking like, I would like Mega Man on one arm, really prominent, and then Disney's Robin Hood on one arm, really prominent, and then other like minor.
Like the Fox Robin Hood.
Yeah, that's my favorite Disney movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and then fill them in with other characters from, various Disney movies and various retro video games. The only thing that bothers
me, I'm going to go on a tangent. The only thing that really bothers me about the Disney Robin Hood, they so clearly
ripped off Jungle Book.
Oh, yeah. Like,
absolutely.
Characters, voices.
It is not the best movie.
Movements. You can like overlay like the dances and stuff. And I'm just like, really?
Absolutely. It's definitely by far not the best Disney movie, but it is my personal favorite.
I did like that one a lot as a kid.
I think that, I don't know if a fountain pen would be on my radar. There are things that I think are more visually appealing. Yeah. That would be more on theme with what I have. Also, I know that that tattoos are forever, and I would specifically go with like things from my childhood, because here at age 39, I know that if I still think they're cool now, odds are I'm not going to regret them.
Yeah, you're halfway
Robin Hood's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
Like Mega Man, Blue Bomber ain't going nowhere, so I'm pretty much okay with that. Nothing pre-95, I don't think. So I think that's a safe bet. You're kind of recession-proof, I guess.
Can't you get
regret-proof?
Can't you get not like injected into your skin, but can't you get like, not like stick-on tattoos or like the kind you have as kids, but like, can't you get like a more permanent, like a 6-month?
Yeah, I think
kind of version of a tattoo.
I think you can. I actually saw an Instagram ad for one, classic panther, on someone's.
I think I wonder if you can get custom ones of that, because like for me, if I was thinking about it, like seriously thinking about a tattoo, I would be like, let me get the like trial version, because I'll take you on a story. So when I was, I think 15 maybe, I wanted to get an earring, and I thought an earring would be cool. And so my parents were like, why don't you get a fake one and try wearing it around, see if you like it, and if you like it, then you can talk more seriously about it. And I was like, that seems wise. And I wore it for like a week and I was like, yeah, this is not me. I feel like I'm faking something. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I was really glad I didn't like actually get the whole thing. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just ended up not being me. I feel like a tattoo, especially the first tattoo, would be like too much of a risk, like a commitment to just like, well, I guess I got to get lasered now if I change my mind. But like I would totally, if I was going to seriously consider a tattoo, I would get a temporary one first just to make sure that I'm like into it, But
there you go.
Yeah, of course. I would have to weigh in Rachel's opinion on this too, because she would have to look at it.
I think she'd be totally okay with the Goulet splatter on your face. I think that there's nothing bad about that.
Oh, I don't know.
The in-laws would love that one.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
But if anybody else has fountain pen related tattoos, please let us know, because I'm sure somebody does.
There's got to be.
There's so many tattoos out there.
There's tattoos of like, people get tattoos of like Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
And like other just much more obscure things. I don't know. I'm curious. Would love to see any pics or links or anything that y'all find.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Go.
All right. So
that's Q&A.
Yeah, you can definitely leave us comments on YouTube. Shoot us an email at pencast@gouletpens.com if you have any other questions or feedback or anything like that. All right. Coming up next, we have a spotlight on the Private Reserve hand ink remover.
Zero luxury.
The words hand and remover are too close to each other.
Sometimes you don't need hands.
Yeah.
Take them
I guess it is made for your hands. So that is descriptive. I don't know.
It's an ink remover.
It's just a lot of words happening. But either way, it's one thing, and we're going to show it to you.
All right, here we go. This is the Private Reserve Ink Zero. What does that say? What does that say? I can't read it.
Luxury Professional Hand Ink Remover. The Private Reserve Ink The Private Reserve Ink Zero Luxury Professional Hand Ink Remover.
And you can't remember that?
Just rolls off the tongue. Rolls off the tongue.
So this one's been opened. We've been using this over at our pen cleaning station. So this
the color of the bottle. I will say that.
I know it's a nice color. So this has been used, to varying degrees of success. But I am going to use it now because we got a request that we demo this in a product spotlight.
Yeah.
I have some Konpeki on my fingers.
You do.
This is kind of a normal amount of ink that I often find myself having encountered. Yeah, like it's not like
I don't get that much ink on my hands unless I'm like,
well, I guess
doing something wrong.
I guess I say normal meaning it's not a really concentrated amount. It's kind of faded, not a big old glob.
Okay.
More like I get a lot of ink on my hands using inky paper towels.
Oh yeah.
That is so. Okay. This is kind of indicative of that. I don't often get ink directly on my fingers. I usually am just using really inky paper towels.
I feel like I get more ink on my fingers when I'm cleaning my pens.
Yeah.
Than I do when I'm inking them.
Oh yeah, no, same.
Right.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the stuff. It's pretty pleasant. There's a light bit of pumice in here, so it does have some scrubbiness happening. But I've been told that using water is essential.
Yeah, it's very, very explicitly said that you need to get your hands wet first. Which this is a little bit of a weird setup that we have going on here because we're not at a sink.
I'm just dipping.
So this is not this is not typically what you're going to do.
So my hands are wet. I'm going to get some more.
Okay.
But already I can see that this part is fading away. This part here, not so much.
And what we were told is that they took a year to develop this stuff. They tested different formulas. Apparently, it's being made by either a cosmetic company or somebody that does this type of stuff more. It's not like they, the same people that are making ink are just like, oh yeah, we'll try making some random thing. No, apparently this was developed by somebody who deals with skin things. Okay. How's it working for you, Drew?
Not great. Not great. I'm kind of going to town.
This is so funny because Drew
I have a lot of bad luck with this.
Has not had the best of luck with this. The rest of our team, our whole customer care team, is like, this stuff is great. It works on everything.
No. Well, I also have pretty wrinkly hands. For my age, I've always had more wrinklier than average hands. Yeah, this isn't really doing a whole lot for me. It's all still there.
I mean, it looks like it's lighter, but
yeah, it's a bit lighter, but not winning here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't ink my fingers beforehand, so
yeah.
I don't have a good control to give you here.
Yeah, I mean, nah, it's fine. But yeah, like Brian said, I'm probably not the best person to demonstrate this, unfortunately.
I think, as Drew's making a huge mess here, I think what we can say about
I wouldn't say this is a huge mess, Brian. There's some dribbles. There's some dribbles.
It's not
a huge mess.
It could be worse. Yeah, let's see what it looks like when you dry it off. I mean, it's definitely still there. It's not like it went away.
Not great. But the thing was, this wasn't that obvious to begin with. There wasn't a ton, like I said, there wasn't a lot of concentration of ink. So yeah, for me, whatever is going on with my skin, not great for me. But
well, I'll say Drew's kind of like a more worst case scenario here of what you might be able to expect. Yeah. Other people have had a lot more success with it, so give it a shot for yourself, or share your experiences with it.
Well, we also have like samples of this now, like smaller bits of it.
Yeah, you can try it out.
So yeah, worth a shot.
Yeah. There you go. We were asked to test it, and test it we did. Not the most scientific of settings, but
no,
you can see what you think. I'll say it does smell pretty good.
Yeah, it actually smells quite pleasant.
Yeah, it's not like a real strong, like citrusy, like the other stuff that we've used is that like cherry bomb, the Zepp like cherry bomb or whatever it is. That stuff feels more like the industrial hand cleaner like mechanics would use and stuff like that. And that stuff is not perfect either. I've never come across anything that's like amazing for.
No, honestly, that stuff's really great for cleaning countertops though.
Yeah.
Like that cherry bomb stuff. Yeah, that'll clear like our ink cleaning station over there. It cleans off those counters nice. Even the inside of the sinks, the aluminum sinks. Yeah. It's a great sink cleaner.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, if that was helpful to you, hopefully. Otherwise, if not, I don't know what to tell you. Nice blend of what you get on the Pencast.
Yeah.
Both helpful and non-helpful things.
Yep. So I think that now's a good time for the surprise, Brian.
Oh, yeah, you have a surprise.
Yes, and I'm going to need this hand sanitizer.
I don't know what.
Before the surprise.
What?
I just want to make sure my hands...
We got something in the mail.
We did get something in the mail. I don't know who sent it. At first, I thought it was Brian sending it to me. But
nope.
I believe it was a Pencast listener, Brian.
Okay.
That's right.
Was there no name? There's
no name. It was just some random Amazon package.
Great. Now we're going to start getting random packages from people. Which, depending on how cool this is, we may discourage you or encourage you to do the same.
I don't think we'll need any more than this.
Okay. You're hyping this up pretty good. I don't know what to expect.
Somebody decided that we needed some astronaut ice cream.
Wow.
How awesome is that?
Wow.
We've got mint chocolate chip.
Oh,
we've got strawberry. We've got vanilla.
Wow.
We've got chocolate, and finally banana.
This is on point.
So somebody in just 1 week, because we were just talking about this last week.
Yeah. Somebody watched this from Friday
and was like, Brian and Drew need some astronaut ice cream.
When did this come in? We just published this 4 days ago.
Today.
As of recording this.
It's arrived this morning.
Somebody was on the ball.
Yes.
Well, I don't know who you are, anonymous gifter, but this is pretty.
I'm going to eat one of these delightful right now.
Me too. What the heck? Let's do it.
Which one do you want?
I want the mint chocolate chip. That's my jam.
You go for it. I've got chocolate in my hand, so I'm going to go with that. Chocolate I did bring hand sanitizer just in case.
Oh, I should probably sanitize.
Because I knew that my hands were going to get funky.
Yeah, you got it.
So yeah, this is quite pleasing. Oh my God, they're cute little nuggets.
They're little. It's not like one little bar.
No, they're little hearts. Oh my God, they look like dog treats.
We can share them.
These look so much like dog treats.
Yeah.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah, is it good? Does it live up to your memory? Oh, see, I should have opened the package before.
That's amazing.
Sanitizing. Now I can't grip it.
That's amazing. It tastes like a. At first, it tastes like a Lucky Charms.
They look like
marshmallow.
They look like Lucky Charms marshmallows. They're like little hearts.
I know. I remember them just being a big old square that you kind of like crack apart. These are high quality though. This isn't just the. These are a little softer than what I remember.
I don't have any explicit memory of what they were like or what form it took.
These are great though.
I just remember being a kid, thinking it was cool, and liking it.
Oh yeah, Moonix.
It's like very melty. It just like immediately kind of dissolves in your mouth.
These are delicious. This is amazing.
This is really good.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. Can I get a chocolate one? I want to do. I want to do a mint chocolate chip and a chocolate together.
Ingredients: half and half, heavy cream, sugar, cocoa powder. That's it.
So it's just like dehydrated
Yeah.
Ice cream, basically.
100%.
All right, chocolate and mint chocolate chip together.
There you go. Make it happen. Let's see. Freeze Dry Incorporated.
What is freeze drying anyway? I don't actually.
It's an American company in Vermont. The first company is the first company in beautiful Vermont, which manufactures, packages, and distributes freeze-dried products. How about that?
Munix. That's what it's called. Freeze-dried ice cream.
That's amazing.
Well, that is delightful.
Right? That's what I said. I said, prepare to be delighted.
I am delighted.
I said it will delight you. Because I had to ask him if he bought anything. I was like, hey, did you buy anything on Amazon? He's like, man, I'm trying not to buy anything on Amazon.
I generally don't.
But I was like, okay, well, prepare to be delighted because I got something today. And
I need to bring some of this home for my kids so that they can try it.
Here, I'll bring strawberry for Archer. You can bring the other two. Here, you get banana and vanilla.
Oh, banana will go over well.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
I'm into this. I'm going to eat all the mint chocolate chip.
And then you got the two for the kids.
And two for the kids,
There we go.
Well, that is delightful.
Yes.
I am delighted.
I am delighted.
Color me delighted.
Marvelous. All right.
Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the nonsensical portion. What's happening?
There we go. Well, I finished a not so new video game, Batman Arkham Knight, which is it's been a couple years since that game came out, so it's not new. I replayed it for the second time.
Okay.
It was enjoyable, but I told myself I'm not going to play a modern game. I'm going to go play a retro game because normally I do my retro gaming on a handheld device. Okay. But then I only play it when I am bored or like I'm upstairs.
In between
yes,
things.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but there are a couple games that I've restarted so many times because I want to finish them, and two of them in particular have been eating at me for years: Super Metroid and Zelda: Link to the Past, both for Super Nintendo. So I said I'm gonna do one of these. So I started up Super Metroid for like the 18 billionth time, but this time focusing on it in my den instead of, a PS4 title or whatever.
Sure.
So that's what I've been doing. And it's been an adventure. I've only had to look up a few things because it's one of those like map exploration games where, there's just this maze of rooms and you can see like the blue parts of the places you haven't been. When you get there, they turn pink. You're like, why is this square? How do I get to that square? That blue hallway. I don't even know how to get there. Like,
you're like, where's my Nintendo Power that has the map of the whole thing?
I need one. So it has some retro gaming challenges, but honestly, it's got a save feature. It's got a map. So already nice. I feel spoiled. So I'm not going to complain, but it's been fun. The music's great. It's kind of like they're trying to go with like an Alien vibe, like a H.R. Geiger style, you're in a derelict spaceship with some aliens and stuff like that. Okay. So fun thing.
Neat.
And then, got Archer a new bike. Ooh. Because
hey, you were talking about this.
We were gonna like splurge and get him something that, in the kind of, and I say splurge, like I don't know how much bikes cost. We were gonna do something around like 150 maybe, but then he would have been paying like more than $50 with his own money, and I'm like, But then he got honor roll, so I was like, we want to do something for him there. Yeah. So we just ended up buying him a cheaper bike. It was only a $78 bike. We just went to Walmart and got him a Huffy. Like it's a Huffy, whatever. Like
it's a temporary bike.
He can deal with a Huffy, whatever. And it's a youth bike, so it's kind of like in between kids and adults. So he loves it. He's been having a blast. That's fun. I took him right after work yesterday up to the school so he could ride around in circles.
That's awesome.
So he's been having a great time with that, and he's been just over the moon there. And project that I've taken on. You remember in high school, I had a jacket that I kept adding patches to.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Do you still have it?
I still have it, but it's a baggy jacket because I bought it in like '99. So it was kind of like
that was the style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought about taking the patches off of it and putting it on a better fitting jacket, but then I was like, you know what? Let me just start a new one.
Yeah.
So I found a new Levi's jean jacket on Poshmark.com, which is like a kind of like an eBay for clothes, but you don't bid, you just buy. So it's only $23. It's a stone washed or acid washed thing. Ooh. So it's like very loud. Yeah. Like I kind of don't like it that much. I put it on. I'm like, this is way too loud. And I know that it's ironic. I'm wearing
too loud for
shirt.
you.
Like, I know.
Wow.
I guess there is such a thing, but
now you know what other people are experiencing.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, everybody.
Around you most of the time.
But it is just a little like, I don't know, a little gaudy, but I'm going to cover it in patches. So it was only $23, so whatever.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my new canvas. I just need to start collecting some more patches. So I'm going to do, I'm going to like segment like my tattoo idea. I'm going to have one arm be, 80s bands, maybe one arm be like retro gaming stuff, maybe the back be movie references. I don't know. I'm going to just cover it in random crap, but
nice.
Yeah, but I got the jacket.
Sounds fun.
It's a fine canvas, even though it's a little obnoxious looking. I also was thinking about finding a way to do all of the sewing myself, because you can iron it on, but I'd rather sew it. And when I was in high school, I got my grandmother to do all of them, but I'd kind of like to learn how to do that. And I thought about that, and I said, my grandmother all through my childhood was a seamstress. She would make wedding dresses and stuff. And my grandfather died, and I didn't have a great relationship with him, and I certainly didn't learn anything from him. But I was thinking, my grandmother knows how to sew. Like, she's made me shirts before. I would love to just kind of learn some basics from her, like how to, hem skirts. Like, my wife's 5'2", so like if I could just bring some of her skirts up a little bit, because she always complains about how everything's too long for her. Like, that would be a really handy skill to have.
I would think so.
And I've got these, button ups that they do that thing where they wave so that they're supposed to be tucked in.
Right.
They're not just flat across. Like, I would love to just like cut my shirts and then hem them up so that they were flat.
Yeah.
Like, that's not complicated. I could do that.
Think so, yeah.
So like, why wouldn't I want to learn to do that? So I don't know. So it's in my head now. I'm like,
you have a sewing machine? Like,
I don't, but she does. And if she could just like kind of show me the basics, like how to start and end
it's not like
stitches.
you're sewing every day. You could just
I could take things over there in a batch.
Yeah,
and
I would think so.
So I kind of, what I'm curious about, I think I might just go over there and be like, Mimi, tell me how to sew.
I'm kind of in the same boat with my mother. My mother, she wasn't a seamstress or anything, but she like sewed quite a bit of stuff when I was growing up and all that. And it was like the kind of thing, it's like, I mean, how many random hobbies does one person need?
Yeah, I know.
But I was like, I have situations where it's like, I'm working outside in my work pants, and I continually split the crotch on those pants.
It'd be
all
handy
the time.
to know.
It'd be nice to know how to sew it myself. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'll keep
me up to date. If you end up doing that, you might inspire me too.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
Interesting.
And then took the dogs to the groomer to get a bath. That was depressingly expensive.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
But Hank, our 3-year-old
tattoo
dog,
money right there, Drew.
I know. Hank, our 3-year-old dog, we always thought he was a bigger dog. But we took him to get furminated, which is this type of brush. It's kind of like a blade-ish brush.
Okay.
That when and we have one, we're just kind of bad at using it. But when the groomers do it, they take off so much freaking hair. He got back from the groomers, and we're like, oh my God, he's not fat. He's just fuzzy.
He's just hairy.
And it was, he was getting rid of that winter coat. Like, I was having to vacuum 3 or 4 times a week because of these dogs, primarily Hank. And then he came back. I'm like, man, you are lean.
Getting it at the source there.
Yeah. So it's been great. It was like, $15, $20 extra for them to do that. I'm sure it was overpriced, but it was but if
you're vacuuming several times a week.
I know. I haven't had to vacuum since he came back.
Well, there you go.
It's been marvelous.
Now you know what to do.
So,
Every spring.
We're going to be doing that.
Furminate them.
Yep, that helped a lot. And then we're looking, we're in the middle of Tech Week right now for Shannon's Little Shop of Horrors show.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing her at all because it's just dress rehearsals every night.
Yeah.
So, she comes home late. But remember I told you that the Little Shop of Horrors plant was kind of coming along slow?
Audrey too, right?
They had to find one elsewhere.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the guy that was supposed to be making it just said he needed another week. We're like, we open next week.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So that whole thing, like all this time, he was supposed to be building it for them. Yeah, so they have no plant. So they're having to get one from another theater company.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's been a whole thing. But Shannon's been cool. She's like, I'm doing my thing. I feel like I'm okay. Yeah. I know my lines. Nothing else matters. I'm like, that's really cool. Because if it were me, I would be freaking out about everything. Like, it's
kind of like a pivotal part of the whole Little Shop of Horrors thing.
Yeah, I guess.
The plant.
Yeah, it's important.
It's like the main feature of the whole thing. Yeah.
But anyway, that's happening this weekend, but I won't be there for opening night. I'll have to see her the week following because I will be in Chicago for the Chicago Pen Show.
Yeah, you will.
That is this weekend.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I haven't been to...
I can't believe that's come up already.
I know.
It's crazy.
So not only is it my first time in Chicago, but it's my first time at any pen event in the central U.S. So I'll be able to see a lot of folks that I don't normally get to see. So if you happen to be at the Chicago Pen Show, find me. I'll be there all day Saturday and just looking to chat with folks.
So, it might be hard to spot or hard to hear.
I usually am pretty subtle and quiet. Yep.
Yes.
So that'll be my weekend.
Exciting.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I've never been to the Chicago show. I've been to the Chicago O'Hare Airport many times. I don't think I've ever been outside of the airport in Chicago, though, personally.
That's a lot of states with me.
Yeah. Cool. So for me, well, first off, I got this cool new Top Gun shirt.
I see that.
To show off.
Did you see the new Top Gun movie?
I haven't. No.
It's pretty cool.
I don't see things.
I know. You just watch Severance again and again and again.
Repeatedly. I haven't watched it again since
your 11th time?
No, I haven't. No. It just keeps happening. My brother-in-law has seen 2 episodes. So every time he visits, we'll watch a couple more. So that'll be my next run. Anyway, I did. So my daughter is in a running group at her elementary school.
That's right.
Which is not, so I've learned, because I'm not centrally organizing any of this. I'm sort of an accessory to the fact. I'm her running buddy, technically. So there is a 5K this coming weekend. And she will be participating in that, as will I. So her and I will be running a 5K together. Wow. But apparently it's like 30 elementary schools in the area.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't quite know that. I thought it was like, oh, cool, this is like a thing at her school and we'll run a 5K or whatever.
Run on the track or whatever.
No, it's like at a park and it's going to be, I guess, hundreds of people.
Oh, wow.
Maybe. I don't know. And it's like, okay, all these girls, she's got like, I don't know, 20 to 30 girls from her school that are doing it.
Oh, wow.
Plus all the running buddies, which is mostly like parents and stuff. And then like times 30 schools or whatever. I'm like, this is going to be a big group of people.
Man.
So I've never done any organized run of any kind. I've done cycling events.
I have not.
I've never run in an organized fashion.
I've never done any physical activity that was organized.
I did track in high school.
Wow.
Which was different. That was obviously competing and kind of different than this. This is obviously a fun event, but we did do a practice 5K last week with my daughter, and it was a lot of fun, I will say. She is not a long distance runner per se. She's dropping your nuggets. So she's more of a sprinter, kind of like me. I'm not a distance runner myself either. So I was kind of like, I hope I can keep up. And I did fine. But she, many of these.
Did you just go around your neighborhood?
Many of these girls, this was at the school.
Okay.
So they like mapped
they organized the practice.
They organized the practice at the school to like, get a sense. So not all the running buddies were there, but I could make it work in my schedule. So I went. So I did that with her. And it was just great. It was a very positive environment. Lots of like teachers and other like people there, like cheering all the girls on and stuff like that. It was really, really cool. So I'm glad I got to be a part of that. And I'm hoping that it's something that my daughter will remember.
When is the actual event?
This weekend.
Oh.
On Sunday morning.
Oh man.
I will be running a 5K, which is like 3 miles. It's like doable, even if you don't run a lot, which I do run from time to time, but not 3 miles that often.
When you did the practice, was she setting the pace? Like
she would like sprint and walk and sprint and walk.
Okay, so as long as she does that, you should be fine.
Yeah, but I was like, I've run a lot more in my life, so I was like, we should like pace ourselves and just sort of jog the whole way. But she was like all or nothing, and so it was a little bit like she was sprinting, and then I was like, you're gonna get really tired, and then she would get tired and you'd walk, and I was like, this is more work. I was like, this is like a high intensity like interval training kind of exercise. What you're doing, I'm just sort of jogging slowly, so it's fine. What matters way more is like we're having a good time together, we're laughing and talking and just having a blast. So it's cool to be able to bond with her in that way. And then also this weekend was my 39th birthday.
That's right.
So now I have achieved all of the wisdom and experience that Drew has had for the last month, since he turned 39 as well. It was great. Yeah. As I was doing the run with Ellie, she was like, you're turning 40 this weekend, right? And I was like, no, not yet, but thanks for thinking I'm older than I am. And all that kind of stuff. She's like, yeah, you're basically 40. And I was like, you'll understand when you get older that that's not the same thing. Anyway, so birthdays are not like, I'm not like a, woo, let me do everything for my birthday. I'm much more chill when it comes to birthdays. So did like church and brunch, had my parents over, and then it was kind of just a low key day. It had been raining a lot recently. And so it like rained in the morning a little bit, but then it was kind of okay in the afternoon. So I was like, I can do some things. So I don't know. I just got kind of motivated to do some like random stuff around the house.
What's that like?
I know it's weird. I never do random things, but this is going to be kind of an obscure reference, but it so perfectly exemplifies the mood I get in sometimes. So there's an episode of 30 Rock where Kenneth thought that the world was going to end. And so he was like sort of crossing things off of his bucket list or whatever before like the apocalypse came, because he belongs to this like wackadoo church.
Yeah.
So he thought the world was going to end.
Reverend Gary.
Yeah. So he was excited. He was like, you can do anything you want. And like Frank and all them were like, Kenneth, you can do anything you want. He's like, I'm going to do all my dream chores. And so he just like went around 30 Rock doing all of the chores that he would like to do in his free time kind of thing. It's like that really fits the vibe of what I do like in my spare time sometimes. So I was like, oh, I can do whatever chores that I want to do around the house.
Oh my
so
God.
like I bought some shorts recently because it's that time of year, and I was like, I have old shorts because I've gained and lost weight so much over the years. I was like, I really need to like get my closet straight, because I have like different sizes of things, and some fit, some don't.
That is so hard to get motivated to do.
But yeah, and so I've been just like for a long time been looking at it just, and I'm like, I can't even remember which piles are what size anymore. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sort these things through. I'm going to bin up the thing. Like I'm not fitting in a size medium shirt anytime soon. I don't care how quickly I lose weight, because I am making another concerted effort to that. But like, I'm not going to fit in a medium shirt until I lose probably 50 pounds. And like, if that even happens again, that's not going to be for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't need to be looking at these shirts in my closet every day. So I just like binned things up, put labels on the bins, and just like organize the stuff. And so I was just like doing some of that. It was weird because it was like, it's my birthday and I'm reorganizing my closet for my like skinny clothes that I don't fit in anymore. Maybe that's not the most exciting thing, but it just felt cathartic to do that.
Yeah.
And then the weather was kind of nice. It was cool. The sun wasn't out. It had rained a bunch, so the ground was nice and soft. So I went out and pulled a whole bunch of weeds, because I stare at weeds every day, and I'm like, I want to get rid of these things. So I pulled a bunch of weeds.
Do you keep a list of all these things?
Sometimes.
Because I get out of my car every day and I see the same like tree bush every day I'm like, oh my God, I need to trim that thing. But as soon as I walk inside, it's gone.
I have certain things like that I like forget.
And then I go back into the car, I'm like, oh God, there it is again.
I have things like that too. So yeah, it's like
mocking me.
If it's something like that comes up enough, and then it pops into my head throughout the day and I think about it, I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to like cross that off my mental list. So yeah, if it's something not important, like I didn't write down the closet thing. That was more of just like a buildup over time.
Yeah.
But the pulling weeds, I'm like, every single day I look at it and I'm like, oh, those weeds are getting worse every day, especially with tons of rain.
You gonna use the blowtorch anytime soon?
I did use the blowtorch.
You made me choke on my ice cream. I got so excited.
I did use it, but I can only use it in certain places. Like I can only use a blowtorch if it's like in like a paved area where there's like stone or something like that. I can't just use a blowtorch like in my mulch,
right?
Like, because I'll light everything on fire, right? So I did do the blowtorch thing. It's not as fast as you would think that it is, and the stuff grows back fairly quickly.
Really?
So it's not as effective as what I would have hoped. And I kind of knew that before when I did it a bunch last year, and so I tried it again this year because I was trying to pull it by hand, especially out of like I have like a gravelly like walking path to my sheds, and I was like pulling the stuff by hand, and I have like weed fabric in there that clearly is not working because stuff's growing up through it.
Man.
Or it's like, dirt and crap is like settled in on the rocks on top of the weed fabric.
Right, and that can grow.
And then stuff grows, and I'm like, well, this is pointless. So I was like, I'm trying not to spray chemicals everywhere, but then I was like, well, I'm pulling them, but it's taking forever, and then I'm burning them, and that still takes a while, and then they grow right back, and I'm like, I just need to pour poison on it. So
yeah.
We'll see. I've tried all these home remedies, and none of them work great. Weeds in Virginia are pretty relentless. There's tons of pollen. We had really a mild winter this year, so the weeds are
it was very mild.
A battle.
Do you know what you haven't tried that is 100% effective?
What's that?
Goats.
I haven't tried goats. That would be terrifying. My kids don't even like small dogs. You think they would like a goat?
No.
They'd be like yelling outside all the time, and goats they're like feisty. They'll like buck you and stuff.
Yeah.
I've
met some really nice goats though.
I was chased down by a goat when I was 10 on my bike. In like a dramatic.
Have so many bad animal memories.
I really don't have great luck with
No,
animals.
you don't.
I'm not mean to them. They just don't like me. My friend and I were going to a BMX track that was like bike rideable from my house growing up. And there was a house near there that had a goat that's normally tied up. One time we went and it was not tied up. And you could tell that goat was just like,
mad goat.
Well, I'm ready for you guys today. So literally like we're on our bikes going down this like dirt road. And it felt very dramatic. It probably wasn't that serious, but we were 10. So
right.
It felt like if this goat caught us, we were going to die. So we were like pedaling like our life depended on it.
It's a goat.
And a goat was chasing us down on our bikes. And he did something crazy and wrecked his bike.
Oh no.
And he literally yelled out, "Save yourself." And I left him. I just kept going. I mean, I look back and the goat had kind of lost interest at that point. So I didn't,
It wasn't even following you anymore?
I mean, it was sort of like trotting along or something like that. We had like gotten far enough away from his domain that I guess didn't really care anymore.
Save yourself.
It was really funny. Now that I think about it, I was like, oh man, as a 10-year-old, that must have been hilarious.
Harrowing.
Like a fly on the wall in that situation would just be cracking up. But it felt very dramatic at the time.
The goat.
Anyway, so
did I know
that's my only goat experience
Did I know this
in
person?
life. Maybe. No. It was like a bus friend that I had, one of those. Anyway, you know how you have bus friends? You're like, yeah, if I had a choice about this, I wouldn't be your friend.
Right.
You're the best of what I have available to me.
Yes.
So we'll be bus friends. I'm just kidding. Yep. He was a nice guy, but anyway. What else did I do? Oh, okay. This is the most dream chore-ish kind of thing.
Oh God.
So I talked a while ago about how I made a new mailbox. A mailbox post.
Yeah, that.
So I painted it this like dark green color, which is really cool. The color is called Dark Night. It's like this deep teal and it looks really cool. The only problem is it's a wonderfully contrasting canvas to bird poop, which is nice and bright and white.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, the birds love to just perch right on the top of the post and then just crap all over it and the poop drips down. I'm talking like feet.
It's like they knew
on the side. Yeah. It's like they're just like, here's this beautiful mailbox thing.
They knew.
Let's just see what we can do with this. So I've been staring at this bird poop, just progressively getting more and more pervasive on this mailbox post. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna clean that off today because it had like sort of rained. So I was like, it's kind of wet already anyway. I was like, I'm just gonna go and like wipe this thing down. I had the gloves and the whole thing, and I brought water out there and everything. So I did that. Man, bird poop is like, it's tough.
Yeah.
Like some of it like deeply encrusted in there. I was like, I'm gonna have to like scrape this off and repaint like to get rid of this.
You've had stuff on your windshield before that you're like, oh, let me just use the wipers and the juice.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Like, it'll eat your clear coat on your car. Like it's like adhesive.
Terrible.
So I did that and I was like, yay, I feel better about that. The next day.
Oh no.
I had mentioned something to Rachel, like, yeah, I cleaned the bird poop off the thing. She was like, you did? And I was like, well, I wasn't able to get everything. She's like, I don't know. And so we like went for a walk or whatever. They crapped all over it again. No. You could not even tell that I cleaned it. And I was like, really? Oh. Can't even enjoy it for like 24 hours?
God.
So I had a futile effort of cleaning bird poop off my mailbox. So
God, that is
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm either just gonna live with it or I'll just like paint the mailbox post white because otherwise you're just always gonna see it. And it's like, well,
that's so funny. I don't
see that coming.
I guess all the birds in my neighborhood are small.
These are small birds. And I've seen them.
I have a black mailbox. And I don't get any bird poop on my mailbox.
The mailbox itself. It's not the mailbox itself. It's the mailbox post.
Oh.
It's like there's like the post itself and it's got kind of like a pointy top.
Yeah.
They sit right on the point.
Oh.
And they face different directions and just poop on all sides of it. Get a nice even dispersion of white lines all around it. I took a picture of it actually.
Mine is white, I think. Mine's just like raw wood. It's just nothing special about mine.
That's mine. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep, that was after I cleaned it the next day.
Oh, no.
That's what it looked like. All sides. And I was just like,
man,
I feel like I'm getting trolled here.
Jerk birds.
So that was fun. And then another thing I did, 2 other things on my birthday. So my son and I playing Bloons TD6.
There we go.
We did a co-op game together, and that was pretty fun.
How do you do co-op when you're on different devices? Like,
you're connected online. Like we're like friends with each other, and you can join in, and we're like, we're in the same room, like we're together, but
so like it doesn't matter.
Connected through our own device.
It's not like PlayStation versus Xbox, where if one person has the other one, you can't play with them. It's just
we're both like connecting into the same environment, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we can like place items with each other. So we're like in person next to each other talking about where we want to place things, and you can share like money back and forth and stuff like that. It was fun. Anyway, so that was a fun little thing. So I did that, and then we decided to play a board game as a family, playing Ticket to Ride.
Which is
like,
it's like a
I
train
played that
game.
a bunch. Yeah, I played that a bunch with Rachel's family. That and like Settlers of Catan are some of our go-tos with like the bigger family games. But our kids had only played the Ticket to Ride Junior. They'd never played the full one. So this was like, okay, they're 11 and 13 now. I'm like, yeah,
It is time.
I think we can do this, and we did. And it's now we played it, and then we like ran out of time because it was getting late, and now it's just like a board game is like vomited all over our kitchen table, and it's been there for 2 days, and I'm hoping by the end of this week maybe we'll finish that game. But
That's how it goes.
it's fun. The kids enjoy it. So then last two things. So Rachel is,
I do know her.
She is an sort of an accidental collection of Target
The birds? Oh yeah, I know about the birds.
So she found some new birds.
Oh my God.
Because there's tons of birds around holidays.
Uh-huh.
So she has a lot of like Christmas birds and St. Patrick's birds and
Right.
like these types of things. But there's not as many holidays in the summer.
No.
But we found some summer birds.
Summer birds. Oh my
and
God.
I had to show you. There's
Oh
like
my
a touristy
God.
summer bird with a camera.
Wow.
And then a snorkeling summer bird. So she
That's
saw
amazing.
those. She saw them and pointed them out in the store and like flipped out. And I was like, we have to
There's
get
nothing
these.
accidental
I was
about
like,
this
we have
anymore.
to get- we
She has
have-
fully embraced the bird
We
collection.
have so many of these Target birds now. So many birds. She
That's
really doesn't
marvelous.
have much other decor,
It's Target birds.
but there's birds. She doesn't love birds. They're just these particular birds are cute. And then last but not least, I had the log grave
there
that
it
I
is.
was working on before. That was the picture that I shared last week. Well, there it is now. So I covered it all up.
There they go.
I buried 3 giant log piles worth of logs.
How many trees
Into the
worth
dirt.
is that?
Probably 4 trees.
4 trees.
Yeah.
Return to nature.
Return to nature, minus the branches. The branches I mulched up. So back in the back there, that's like my mulch pile of what I've mulched up. That's what I mulched up last year. That's breaking down into topsoil. That was the good, like dark topsoil that I scraped off.
You
that I
have so
put in
many
its own
piles of
pile.
dirt.
I do.
Oh my
It's like a
God.
construction site back there
It
now.
really does.
And I told Rachel too, I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry for this. Like, this is a concept and I think it's going to be good. Like, it's going to break down over time. And I'm also like, the next tree I take down, it's like, am I going to keep digging holes in my yard? Like, this does not feel sustainable.
Mhm.
This is like a proof of concept. And I've proved the concept. And now I don't know what I'm going to do with future logs. I think I'm just going to pile them into the woods and just let them decay because this is ridiculous. But I've done it and I don't know, y'all. This is just, I don't have like a firm plan for everything I do in life. This is like in my downtime when I'm just outside playing. I'm like, oh, this sounds fun. Let me try this. And I do. And I'm like, yep, I did that now.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So that's my log grave. It's now
There it is.
complete. It's buried. And
Well,
it has a tombstone of dirt piles.
yeah, like that really does look like someplace you can go and like, yeah, I'd like 3 tons of
Can I-
mulch. Like, yeah, sure, just load
I
it
do.
up.
I have 4 different piles back there now. And I'm like, these are, I mean, like sometimes you need topsoil. Topsoil's expensive.
You don't even garden though.
I don't.
What are you going to use topsoil for?
Oh, to like smooth out like rough spots in my yard. So when I'm mowing, I'm not like,
okay.
bouncing around everywhere.
All right.
So I like to smooth it out, or yeah, if I want to garden, which I don't. Yeah. So mainly for yard work. But when you bury 4 trees worth of logs, you cover them up and then you have dirt left over.
Yes, you have bonus dirt.
Didn't totally, I mean, I sort of halfway thought about that, but I didn't really think about the fact that I would end up with like 2 giant piles
Yeah.
of dirt left over. But I'm also like, I mean, I'll use dirt. It's fine.
They would make a great RC ramp.
It really would. Believe me, I've thought about it.
Oh,
I was
I know
like,
you
maybe I
have.
should just take some of these logs and like put them on the ground and then like cover them with dirt and make like my own little track. But I was like, boy, that doesn't seem like something Rachel would go for.
Are you gonna? Do you have to do anything to clean up your trails now that it's getting warmer? Do you have anything?
Oh, now they're just mud.
Yeah.
They're just all mud.
Oh,
So,
right.
we got a ton of rain just now and then it'll dry.
Are
out
all
the
of
next
your
weekend, so-
borders still good? They haven't like sunken down into the ground or anything?
All the borders, like
You know,
the log,
Yeah.
the log edges. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they're all like disgusting
Oh.
because they're like growing fungus and
Oh.
decaying and stuff.
Man.
It's pine. So
They
like
look so
pine-
pretty though. At
It
first.
did look good, and now it looks disgusting. Like pine is It decays really quickly. It's not weather resistant at all. It's filled with like sap and
yeah. You need to get like railroad ties or something.
Yeah, and they're just like they're like a thriving haven for insects and yellow jackets and fungus and all these things.
Oh.
So I'm just like, yeah. That's my biggest concern with this log grave thing. Is like I might be creating this like underground mecca for all kinds of crazy stuff. But I mean, that's part of what breaks down that's what breaks down the wood too.
There you go.
It's all
Bright side.
It's all part of the natural ecosystem.
Glass half full. I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my craziness.
Wow.
So now I haven't. Oh, and the other thing that I did do on my birthday as well, I went out to my like woodworking area and I didn't do a single project. I just cleaned stuff up and just like cleared off my workbench and just made room and organized stuff.
Okay.
I don't like the process of organizing, but I like the end state of it being organized because it's like it's constant battle in my life to organize my own crap. Maybe because I'm into so many different things. But anyway, it is cathartic every now and then to just like, let me organize, clean stuff up, throw things out, donate stuff.
And now you can do more stuff.
Simplify.
Now you can have more projects.
Yeah, now I can do things and immediately cover it all again with other things.
More proofs of concepts.
At some point you're like, I'm 39. I'm not really going to change how this works. This is just naturally how I function. And
100%.
This is just what it looks like for me.
Absolutely. Embrace it.
Yep. There we go. That's my life. All right.
That's something.
Yep. All right. We got a couple of company updates, then we can wrap this episode up. We do have something new. Do you have the brochure? Did we grab
I forgot to bring it.
One?
I can either bring it or I can take pictures of it.
We can take some pictures of it probably. So we have a new brochure that we're going to be including with your packages.
All of them.
Yay.
At least to start. We're kind of figuring things out.
Yeah. It's at the point where if you're like ordering a whole bunch of times, you're like, I really don't need to know how to clean out my pen anymore. But anyway, so we have some fun details of this. It's got some like, interesting like facts and stuff about our company, but also some instructional things about like how to clean your pen, how to fill it, that kind of stuff. So it should be good, especially for people who are newer to fountain pens to just have a little more hands-on tactile information.
And it'll have a QR code so that if you do happen to gift it to anybody, they can scan the QR code, come right to, kind of a get started section of our content and videos and whatnot.
Yeah. So we're trying it out. So I think we just started using it this week. So was it this week or last week? I think it was this week. We just started using it. Yeah. So by the time this video publishes, you will maybe have received a package that has this thing in there. So we'll have a couple pictures in here and all that. And then another fun little thing that we did last weekend was we had our company party.
Yes, we did.
First one in 3 years.
That was a delight.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, COVID kind of shut that down. We used to have an annual party.
Yeah. We've done that for a while. But
a couple of years we just did not.
Got sidetracked a little bit because of the COVID. But it was fun. We had it in downtown Richmond, right on the river, which with all this rain and stuff, I mean, we timed it perfectly because there was like terrible rain the day before, terrible rain the day after. But that evening, we did the party,
one evening happened to be beautiful. Yep.
But boy, that river was raging.
It was like brown.
Yeah. There were like whole trees and stuff like floating down this river. It was ridiculous.
Our city has a river kind of going right in the middle of it, James, and it's a pretty busy river, right? Yeah. Especially right at the city is like near right at the city is kind of the fall line where it really picks up speed. So there's a lot of big rapids and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But it was a nice night. There was fun, selfie opportunities, good food. And it was just nice to kind of get everybody together.
Photo booth with the cheesy props. And a little 360 video booth too.
That was fun.
Dancing, some giveaways and stuff. So it's just a fun time to get to see each other and also significant others too, because it had been basically since the last company party that we'd really seen anybody. So that was pretty wild.
It had been a while.
That's kind of cool.
That was pleasant.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. Well, we want to thank you all for watching. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Ask us questions so that we can answer stuff on the show. Check out gouletpens.com for your fountain pen, ink, and paper needs. Like and subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and all these places. And I have a fun fact, Drew, that I mentioned last week. I don't know if I told you on camera.
You told me that.
I think it was after we recorded.
There was one that you had.
There's one that I had that I was intending to save.
You didn't tell me, though.
I saved it in a different place because we populate a new copy of the Pencast like outline for each episode. So if I was like, oh, I want to save this, at the time we do a previous recording, I was like, I don't have you finished the whole thing. Look at that.
That's so good.
I mean, it's very light. It's not a heavy snack.
It's very healthy for you.
Anyway. So I learned this fun fact, and I wanted to share it with you all.
Please.
It's about the term bug related to computers. Like software,
gotcha.
like a software bug. So, according to Wikipedia, the term bug was used in an account by computer pioneer Grace Hopper, who publicized the cause of a malfunction in an early electromechanical computer. Typical version of the story is, in 1946, so this goes back a ways, when Hopper was released from active duty in the military, she joined the Harvard faculty at the Computation Laboratory, where she continued her work on the Mark II and Mark III computers. Operators traced an error in the Mark II to a moth trapped in a relay, coining the term bug. This bug was carefully removed and taped to the logbook stemming from the first bug. Today we call errors or glitches in a program a bug. So it literally refers to a bug.
Was an actual bug.
There was in a mechanical relay switch in an early computer. So apparently Hopper was not present at the time that the bug was found, but it became one of her favorite stories. The date in the logbook was September 9th, 1947. The operators who found it, including William Bill Burke, leader of the Naval Weapons Laboratory in Dahlgren, Virginia, which is like 30 minutes from here.
What town?
Dahlgren. It's like right outside of Fredericksburg. Dahlgren. It's like a naval base where they test like weapons and stuff.
Never heard of it.
Yep. We're familiar with the engineering term, and amusedly kept the insect with the notation, first actual case of a bug being found. So I think the term bug may have actually been used prior to that, but that was like what solidified it.
Nice.
So apparently the logbook, complete with the attached moth, is in part of the collection at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History.
That is awesome.
There you go. If you didn't know, the term bug literally refers to a bug.
I had a bug situation at Target this weekend. We were at Target getting Archer some more shorts because he wears shorts like a weirdo.
Because this happens. Like a proper child.
Yep. And Shannon was looking at the women's section, so we were just kind of like bored looking around. And Archer points at one of the big, massive, billboardy things of a lady in a swimsuit or something. And she had this like white spot on her neck. And Archer's like, why does she have a bug on her neck? I'm like, that's not a bug. It's like a puncture in the thing where light's coming out of. And he's like, no, that's a bug. I'm like, Archer, it's not a bug. It's white. And I look closely. It is an absolute white outline of a large bug with the wings, legs, and everything.
Interesting.
And so I was like, oh my God, you're right. Sorry. That's a giant bug shape. So I'm left to just imagine that when this massive banner got printed, like there was a bug somewhere on it that the printing rolled over and it was removed before it was blown up. Like there was no good reason for there to be a bright white outline of a fly or whatever it was on there.
It wasn't like a discoloration of her tan, because I know sometimes people when they get like suntans and stuff, they'll like put shapes on them so that
she was brown skin, and that bug on her neck was the same like, color as like just like blank paper,
vinyl.
Like
unnaturally.
Yeah. So white. It was a really odd catch, but
wow. Very observant.
Yeah, very
of him.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you gonna do? Well, your mom's shopping for clothes. You just look at necks for bugs, But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, weird.
That. It happens.
Bugs happen. All right.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad to have you here, and
very much.
We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Right on.